Hi folks, what's going on? This is gonna be a little bit weird because I'm normally used to reading off a script, which is what's right in front of me. So you're gonna see me look over here a lot because I'm not used to making eye contact with a camera that much, even when I'm live streaming. But you might have noticed I haven't been very active this year, even though I was like super active last year. There's some good reasons for that, and if you stick around, I'm going to explain everything. I'll be talking about what happened and what's about to happen. And some of that is good news. And if you're here because you're going to start noticing like a lot of locked posts on my channel, and you're worried about what that means, don't sweat it. I'll cover that too, and I can almost guarantee it's not as bad as you're fearing. So, let's get into it. I'll start off with what I had planned for this year. Coming out of 2023, I had many options on the table. Every time I get an idea for a video or a series of videos, it goes into like a really big, huge Google Docs I have where I keep all my ideas. And, sometimes that's just like a single sentence, and sometimes that's like a whole outline, sometimes that's a link to a different article that has like a script written out, right? It's a place to keep everything I want to do on my YouTube channel going forward. And for 2023, I guess 2023 going into 2024, I had 3 games lined up that I wanted to talk about. Sonic Colors Ultimate Edition, Sonic Superstars, and Sonic Origins Plus. And specifically, it's because all 3 of those games were gifted to me through my Throne Gifts wish list. It means that, generous people like you out there on the internet bought those games for me. And generally speaking, if you want me to talk about a game, a really good way to do that is to buy it for me. Because I feel kind of obligated, it's kind of like asking me to cover something, in a sense. These are things that I would have normally bought for myself, but I don't have a lot of money, and it's just, I would have picked them up on sale years from now or whatever. And technically that's, Sonic Colors Ultimate's not a new game, but you know what I mean. And when it comes to like games people buy for me, bare minimum, I like to do a live stream for them. Schedule permitting. I don't always get around to it. Famously, I've been sitting on a copy of Undertale since like the year that game came out, and I feel really bad because I've never even booted it up yet. But that's just how it goes. Sometimes I get around to something and sometimes I don't. It's just the way things go. It's my schedule, it's if I'm in the middle of something else, it's what I want to play next, it's all kinds of factors. Particularly, I wanted to do something with Sonic Superstars because it was new and it was fresh, and everybody was talking about it, and I live streamed it, and it was fresh on my mind. I had all these, brand new, fresh opinions on the game, and I wanted to. It made sense to do something with it. That's the cycle. A brand new game comes out, I make a video about it, and I did all these, lead-up videos about Sonic Superstars, or I did one. What was stopping me from doing the Sonic Superstars video is that I was already knee-deep in another video. I was doing a part 2 video for the definitive way to play Sonic Adventure 2. Because, since my first video in February of last year, like the modding scene for that game has exploded. There are so many new mods coming out like almost weekly at this point that just like fix like massive things in the game, completely change all kinds of different things. So I wanted to do a follow-up video. I wanted to do a part 2 to explain everything that's changed. The mod loader's changed, a whole bunch of stuff. It really deserves like a part 2. And then I was weighing like even more video ideas on the side, like not even specifically in that Google Doc, just general things. You're in the middle of something and you get an idea, and you want to do that idea immediately. I go through that a lot. So I had, I was in the middle of this Sonic Adventure 2 video, I wanted to do a Sonic Superstars video, I wanted to do a Colors Ultimate video, a Sonic Origins Plus video, and then new ideas were springing up in the middle of all of this. And one of the things that I've been starting to like plan for is like, this is going to sound a little bit cynical, but I've noticed on my channel that the only videos you people watch from me are about Sonic the Hedgehog. And like, don't get me wrong, I am very happy to ramble on and on and on and on and on and on about Sonic the Hedgehog. Like, it is a topic I am the most knowledgeable about. I can go on at length about any given Sonic game. And the whole idea there is that I was planning a video series where, like, if you've ever watched SomecallmeJohnny, he does, like, you know, these marathon video series where he'll go through, like, every single game in a series and he'll review each one in, like, chronological order. Like, right now he's in the middle of playing and reviewing every single Final Fantasy ever made. And, you know, he was doing Resident Evil. I think he's, like, juggling Resident Evil and Final Fantasy at the same time. So he does these marathon series, and then you also think about, like... So Matt McMuscles has a video series called The Worst Fighting Game, where he plays through really terrible fighting games, and he ranks them all on a list based on how bad they are, in the ultimate goal of finding out what is the worst fighting game. And, like, you know, he's not the only one that does, like, ranking lists. Many years ago, I had a video, I had an article I wrote ranking all the Sonic games, and it was something that's, you know, it's come up a lot over the years as people ask me questions on my Tumblr blog and things like that. So what I was planning on doing is, like, if you guys like me talking about Sonic games, well, then I was just going to talk about every Sonic game ever made. I was going to do a whole video series reviewing and ranking every single Sonic game ever made. So, you know, you can just imagine this giant list of every single game. I was working on how to, like, structure all of that, because, you know, I can't just do, like, a free-form video or anything like that. Like, I didn't want them to be, like, just normal video reviews. I wanted very specifically to, like, break down, like, ranking criteria, kind of systemize it, because I wanted, like, a video series that I could just, like, burn through really fast, really easily. Because, you know, I'm slow at uploads. So I wanted something fast and easy that I could just get through, boom, 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 do like 10 videos a year, 15 videos a year, maybe with, like, the ultimate goal of getting down to, like, say, 1 video a month, 2 videos a month even. And, like, that was my slate for the year, right? It was doing the second part of the definitive way to play Sonic Adventure 2. It was starting and finishing the Sonic Superstars video. It was doing a video on whether or not they fixed Sonic Colors Ultimate, and it was doing a video on whether or not they fixed Sonic Origins Plus. And then, you know, the thing in the back burner, the thing that would be in the background this entire time, would be figuring out, writing, and recording this Sonic ranking list video series. So, you know, it's getting to be almost 2025, so, you know, what happened? Some of you may remember that about 2 years ago, my mom died. And she died when I was currently living with her. So, you know, she dies and I don't have a place to live. My brother takes me in, and it's supposed to be like this temporary gig where I'm only here until I get back on my feet and can go find a place of my own. And long story short, I just never got back on my feet. I sent out a few pitches and, like, an application or two at different places that were hiring. I wanted to do, like, a writing job because I think I'm pretty good at it. Some of you may know that I worked at a niche games writing job for like 12 years, you know. I cut my teeth there, I learned a lot, I think I'm pretty good at it. And I've had friends that are, like, in the games media that have, like, actually encouraged me to send out applications and, like, work at a real place, like, you know, a GameSpot or an IGN or, you know, just some place like that. I'm not, like, saying anything specific. I'm just, like, throwing names out there, right? And this was at a time where, like, the games press space was absolutely being decimated by layoffs. I mean, I'm talking like half of entire websites would just vanish overnight. It was like 50, 100, 200 people just suddenly got laid off in like 6 months. It was devastating. It was nasty, right? And that meant, nobody was hiring. I was sending out applications, I was sending out pitches, and they were just dropping dead. Nobody was hiring. And I was faced with a choice. And the choice was to find a local job, like a service job, like literally working a cash register or flipping burgers or whatever. And I don't have a car. I don't know how to drive yet, still, after all these years. It's just one of those things I never got around to, I never needed to. And local transit, I mean, if you don't know, I currently live in Carson City. Despite being the state capital of Nevada, like, the public transit system in this town sucks. It's terrible. It's not terrible, it's serviceable. It'll get you around, but there aren't a lot of bus routes. You're gonna have to do a lot of walking, like, depending on where the bus stops, right? Buses do go in and around, like, commercial zones and things like that, but it's still, there's not very many buses. They don't run very late. I think the buses stop running about 7 p.m. So you can imagine, like, if I'm working a job where I get off at, say, 8 p.m., that means having to walk home. And depending on how far away that might be, that could be 4, 5, 6 miles. It could be a long walk. So I weighed my options there, and I thought, that sounds terrible. I thought that sounds like garbage. I didn't want to do it. I don't think I can be blamed for not wanting to do it. So, the choice I made instead was to throw myself into my YouTube channel. And from the end of 2022 up through 2023, that's when I started, like, planning and posting regularly on my YouTube channel. And in that span of time, we'll say about 13, 14 months, maybe 15, you got about 7 videos out of me. It's about as consistent as I've ever been on that YouTube channel. Because, normally if you've been around for a long time, there were years where I'd only put out, like, 1 video a year. Right? It was not very many videos at all. 7 videos in about a year is about as good as it gets for me, apparently. But obviously, I was planning for the future. I was trying to figure things out. I was trying to figure out ways to put videos out faster, serialize things more, things like that. And truth be told, like, that entire span of 7 videos was, like, also the most successful my YouTube channel had ever been. I was getting pretty consistent view numbers for the first time, like, ever. It was actually really nice for a change. And, we get down to about November 2023, and my brother pulls me aside one night. He's like, hey, you should think about moving out. And I was like, oh, right. I'd been, like, so focused on trying to make my YouTube channel work that I forgot this was only supposed to be temporary. I wasn't supposed to settle down and live here forever. And it kind of got away from me. I forgot what I was doing. I was just tunnel vision, on YouTube. And that kind of, like, broke the dam on, like, a lot of emotions. I kind of just turned into, like, this deer in the headlights, right? Where everything I was doing, I just froze up. Because I was just racked with, like, guilt and fear and just all these feelings of, like, oh no, what am I doing? I'm taking up all this space. I eat dinner with them every night. That's costing them money. Obviously, I was paying for what I could when I could. We'll get into it, but, like, that's the other thing, right? is that despite 2023 being the most successful my YouTube channel has ever been, it was not successful enough for me to support myself. It was enough that I could buy my own groceries, but again, you know, they were feeding me dinner and everything else. I'm using their electricity, I'm using their heat. And I was just, I froze. I didn't know what to do. All my creative energy, all my energy, like, period, just disappeared. As like I fell into like this rut of like really bad depression and anxiety, and just it was terrible. Like, it was genuinely, it was a rough time. Like, every time, like, the gears would start turning and I'd start being creative again, it would just, I'd think about, what am I doing? I can't be doing this. I can't, you know, I have to focus on other things. I have to get out of here. It was overwhelming on so many different levels. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't deal with it. And it threw me into this deep rut of depression. And like, what made it worse is that ever since I moved in here, I've had sleeping problems. And I've been trying to track it down. I've been trying to figure out what's going on. You know, like, my bed sucks. I'm a pretty light sleeper, and there's like a lot of people that live in this house. And I'm a night owl. So you can imagine, like, if I'm sleeping in, like, to say 10 a.m., 11 a.m., even noon some days, on a weekend with, you know, 7 or 8-year-old little boys running around the house, it's a little hard to sleep. And I can't blame them. I mean, you know, that's exclusively a me problem, right? And I'm one of those people where, like, if I'm not sleeping well, I kind of start to fall apart a little bit. I get anxious and emotional and depressed, and it's just, it's like I kind of start to lose my mind a little bit. And truth be told, I've been kind of losing my mind a little bit for a long time. Every time, like, to go back to like what I was saying earlier, like, every time I'd put out a YouTube video and it would be like incredibly successful, right? It would be like, wow, you know, I'm hitting these numbers like pretty consistently. Maybe I'm gonna make this work. And then I'd actually look at the numbers, like the earnings and what I would need to completely support myself, and it would be like 1/3 of what I'd need. I'd need to put out a lot more videos, a lot more quickly. And, you know, when you realize that, when you're fighting an uphill battle and you know it's not enough, and you're tired and you're cranky and you're sad all the time, all I wanted to do after a time was to just crawl into bed and stay there. And that's not a good thought to be having. But I have good news. I continue to pull myself forward. This is not the end of anything. For those of you who follow me on Twitch, you know that I've been doing like low-key late night streams where I work on, like, say, audio editing for different projects. Having a captive audience like that, like, really does help me stay on task, and I was like getting actually a lot of work done. Just knowing people were there, knowing that people were supporting me, knowing people would catch me if I stopped working on something. If like I got too distracted, like, that helps a lot too. And I was getting like a lot of work done for the first time in like 9 or 10 months. And, you know, the fruits of that labor are already obvious in some places. And if you keep watching this video, you're going to learn, you know, where that work went into. It's something that you can already ingest right now. But most importantly, I'm moving! I'm getting out of Nevada. I'm getting out of my brother's room. This tiny little room. I'm going back to Colorado. I'm going home. I was born in Colorado. I grew up in Colorado. And having to leave Colorado to come to Nevada kind of broke my heart. All my family, like, well, not all my, I have family out here too, but the family I grew up with is in Colorado. And just, like, if I think about this too hard, I'm gonna make myself cry. So, I'm gonna cut it off right there. I'm going back. Like, what I was trying to say earlier before I let myself get distracted and emotional is that the entire reason we left Colorado and came to Nevada is because housing prices out here were a lot cheaper. Like, they were like 1/3 cheaper out here compared to Colorado. But obviously, you know, you take a look at anything these days and everything's expensive now. So might as well go back, right? I'm gonna be moving in with my cousin, and she's someone that has basically been like a sister to me. Again, you know, I grew up with her. I saw her for every holiday. You know, obviously, our moms knew each other, being sisters, as you do. But it was just, you know, every holiday, every birthday, everything. I saw them constantly. Her and her brother. Like, they were, and still are, like, some of my best friends. And, you know, she showed me pictures of the room I'll be moving in at her place. It's like 4 times the size of this place. I'm gonna have more space to put all my stuff. And more importantly, it's just gonna be a chance to start over on the right foot. To not come in here and feel so weird about everything. Like, I'm extremely grateful to the opportunity my brother and his family afforded me. I don't want to like look a gift horse in the mouth or badmouth them or anything like that. But at the same time, I think it's very clear that living here was not very healthy for me. I mean, just counting me, like 6 people live in this house. My brother, his wife, and his 3 kids. And we have 1 bathroom in this place. Like, I've told friends that and they cannot believe sharing 1 bathroom with 6 people. It's rough. Let's put it that way. And like, in this room here, like, this is a very small room for an adult like me with a lot of stuff. With all my stuff in here with me, I have, where did I put it? I actually measured it recently. I have a tape measure right here because I measured it. From the edge of my desk here to my bed behind me, which is currently piled full of junk because I'm getting ready to move, but from the tip of my desk here to my bed is 5 feet. It's probably from here to here, it's probably more like 7 feet. So, you know, consider a space 5 by 7 feet to live in. That's not a lot. It's hard. And since this was like only supposed to be, you know, a temporary living arrangement, I have been forcing myself to live like a guest here for the last 2.5 years. And like, you know, to be fair to them again, like most of that's like a problems I created for myself. Again, it's nothing they did. But it's just been really weird and really difficult being here. And now I don't have to worry about that anymore. They get a whole entire room back. You know, they have 3 kids, 2 twin boys. Both of them are almost 8 years old as of this year. And they'll each get their own room now, and that's great. I'll get a bigger space to live in. I'll get to go back to where I was born, the place I've been missing ever since I left in 2017. It's time for a change, and everything about what I'm doing is going to be bigger and better. That feels good. I mean, parts of it are very scary. This is going to be one of the biggest changes of my life. The biggest change I've had since I moved out here in 2017. But it's a necessary change, and hopefully it'll be a good change. It's hard to contain how excited I am for this. Like, even though I get really anxious about it really easily, sometimes I think about what this is going to be like. And it's just like, oh man. October 22nd is hopefully the day I'm out of here. And I haven't really started packing or anything yet, because frankly, I never really unpacked. So there's not really that much I have to box up. I have stuff in my brother's storage shed. Let me put this stupid thing down. I have stuff in my brother's storage shed that, I need to go through. I need to figure out what I'm keeping, what I'm throwing away. Mostly it's just like a lot of dishware and things like that I'm not going to need. Because I was in such a rush to get out of our old apartment when my mom died that by the end of it, we were just throwing crap in boxes and just figured we'll figure it out later. And it turns out later is now. I'm telling you all of this because even though I would have liked to have part 2 of the definitive way to play Sonic Adventure 2 out by now, I don't think that's going to happen. Not for the rest of the year, which is kind of a bummer, right? I feel like 2024 has turned out to be the ideal environment to put a video like that out. You've got the whole Sonic Generations remaster, Sonic Cross Shadow Generations, things like that. The movie's coming out. A lot of people are looking to revisit their Sonic Adventure 2 nostalgia, and the video they're finding is deeply out of date. I'd actually made quite a bit of progress on the video so far. I've been recording and editing down my narration. I've captured a bunch of footage already. I've done storyboards. But, with moving and having to settle at a new place, it's not happening this year. That's just the way it is. I just have to deal with it. And that sucks, because when I moved out here in 2017, that's when I put the first Sonic Adventure video out. And that video blew up like dynamite, right? That was like a huge deal for me. It's kind of the whole reason I'm doing a Sonic Adventure 2 video at all. And that video made enough money that it covered a lot of the moving expenses I had. Stuff gets broken during a move. We had to buy some new furniture, things like that. And the earnings I made from that first Sonic Adventure video covered all of it. I helped pay for the deposit. I did all this stuff. And it was really nice to have that kind of safety net to fall back on. And I'm not going to have that this time. In fact, my funds are actually getting kind of dangerously low. Below I have a comfort level in my account, and I'm constantly up and down in that comfort zone where it's it dips a little bit low and I start to sweat, and then it goes back up, and then it dips a little bit low and I start to sweat. I was really counting on that Sonic Adventure 2 video. But, it is what it is, right? This has been a very strange time in my life, and hopefully I'll find more stability soon. But I do have plans in the interim, and they're going to start showing up on the channel soon. Really, I just want to give you guys a heads up so that nobody starts to freak out and thinks that things are changing for the worse, because they're not. This is going to be nothing but a small blip in the history of this YouTube channel. One thing I did recently was I turned on YouTube memberships. This is basically YouTube's attempt at sort of biting Patreon style a little bit. Or how you subscribe to somebody on Twitch, right? where you have like an ongoing monthly subscription to their live streams or whatever. Basically, the way YouTube memberships work is that you just pay a little bit of money, like monthly, and you get like exclusive members only content. Again, it's a lot like Patreon, it's a lot like Twitch. So something I started earlier this year was a podcast series called Very Early Access. And it's basically a chance for you to hear scripts for upcoming videos like the moment I finish writing the first draft. This means that like the writing's going to be a little bit sloppy, the factual information might not always be entirely correct, but it's your chance to like hear an upcoming video like weeks or months, or in some cases like even years before these videos come out officially. And I do this by running these scripts through a piece of text-to-speech software. This is actually like a really important step for me personally, because like when you're like so zoned in the zone writing a script, you kind of like lose perspective on it sometimes. It's that old saying of like missing the forest for the trees, right? You're so focused on one aspect that you kind of lose your ability to see it in a certain way. And running it through this text-to-speech software kind of like refreshes my perspective and makes it easier for me to identify problems and fix them. And I know this probably sounds like really nebulous and weird and it's hard to understand, but it's a really important step for me. It's really like genuinely helpful. But if I'm going to be doing that, if I'm going to be listening to my own scripts being read back to me by somebody else's voice, I figured I could just put those up and let you guys listen to it too. And so far over on Patreon, I've released 5 total scripts. And now that I have this YouTube membership system set up, I'm going to be bringing them over and then posting them here for you guys to listen to. But just like with Patreon, they're going to be locked behind a paywall. And if you'd like to have like a sample to hear what this sounds like, here's a clip from one of those podcasts.
In 1996, Sega was still considered one of the titans of the arcade industry, and Takashi Iizuka attempted to blend fast arcade action with more complex gameplay elements. When players begin a level, they are helpless and lost, wandering Nightopia alone. By finding and releasing knights, the game begins proper, switching from free-roaming 3D to lap-based, side-scrolling flight. As knights, you are 2 personalities inhabiting one body, and both have control at the same time, something represented within the gameplay itself. Before becoming knights, Elliot and Claris have the ability to freely explore in all directions. But after they dualize, you are relegated to simple side-scrolling control, while knights themselves winds their way through the environment. In practice, it's less confusing than it sounds, as it just means the gameplay is what is commonly referred to as 2.5D, where you're playing as a 2D character following a track through a 3D world, but it's interesting how it ties into the idea of 2 consciousnesses sharing control of one being. You may be able to fly up and down, backward and forward, but ultimately it's knights themselves that chooses where you're going.
Now, as you can tell, like I've tried to make these like a real, genuine podcast. There's like background music, I've added like sound cues in certain places. I've tried to make these like as listenable as humanly possible without having to spend like days or weeks recording narration that I'm never going to use. Like that's the whole reason I'm not reading these out myself, is because when I narrate something like that for a video, it takes a very long time to process my own narration. A computer voice doesn't flub lines, or it does, but like it's in a funny way. It's expected. Again, this is all very early access, right? It's supposed to be a little bit sloppy. I think the text-to-speech voice sounds fine, to be fair. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better than text-to-speech used to be, right? It's fine. It's good. And speaking of podcasts, I'll also be sharing a podcast I created about my experiences playing Mother 3 for the first time. This one is actually read by me, and it's basically me narrating an article I published on my website, bltn.net. Anyone can read the written article for free, but I figured, if you're a YouTube member, if you're giving me money, then you can hear a narrated version of that article as read by me. And just like with everything else, it's got like music and it's got sound cues. It is like very properly produced. It is on the level of one of my videos. It's just, it doesn't have a video component. It's just a podcast, which is a lot easier for me to produce. The whole reason I did it like that, and I didn't just make a Mother 3 video, is because I largely played Mother 3 on my own time, and I didn't want to replay the game a second time to record footage for it and everything, It would have been a 30-hour RPG times 2, and it's not something I'm necessarily fully against, but again, we're kind of working in like a narrow time window here, and not everything has to be a video. Sometimes these things can just be a podcast, right? If you'd like to hear a sample of the Mother 3 podcast, there you go. Once upon a time, I loved RPGs. I cut my teeth on Final Fantasy II for the Super Nintendo, though to be honest, I don't remember my time with it very fondly. I didn't really understand the genre. I thought hit points referred to points on your body that you could be struck at. Like, your elbow is a hit point, your ear is a hit point, so on and so forth. When the game told me a monster like SomecallmeJohnny had 3,000 hit points, I figured that meant he was a giant and thus had more surface area to strike at. I was not a very bright kid, but in my defense, nobody ever bothered to correct me either. The first RPG to really stick out in my head was Earthbound, known in Japan as Mother 2. On the surface, Earthbound felt like a kitschy look at hometown Americana, as filtered through the lens of a Japanese writer. Though Earthbound sort of focused on contemporary America when it came out, to me it's always carried this vibe of like Norman Rockwell by way of the Peanuts gang. Now, all of these podcasts will be going up at the exact same pricing tier I had them up on my Patreon. For the Mother 3 podcast, all you have to do is donate any amount of money on my YouTube membership plan, and you get to hear it. For the very early access podcasts, that is on the early access tier, so you'll need to pay, at least $2 to hear those. And there's further tiers up on the list. Those are mainly just like really nice tip jars, if you want to give me some walking around money, things like that. And in the future, all $2 members will also get early access to videos. Like finished videos that are about to release, because that's something I do on Patreon. So if you've avoided Patreon for whatever reason, and frankly there is a growing amount of reasons to avoid Patreon, well, now a lot of that content is going to be right here on YouTube. And if you do like Patreon, if you're willing to give Patreon money, I've also set it up so that you can now buy individual posts over on Patreon. So like if you'd like to hear the Mother 3 podcast but nothing else, well, you can go over to my Patreon and buy just that post, just that podcast for $3, which is, the lowest dollar amount Patreon will let me set things like that. And you can buy all the very early access episodes also for $3 each, or you will by the time this video goes up. I haven't actually gone in and set that up yet. I wish YouTube would let me sell individual videos like that, but I guess we're not quite there yet. And I'm just bringing this up because I don't want to freak people out when they see 6 videos in a row suddenly appear and they're all locked behind a paywall. This is not becoming a paywall channel. This is just me playing catch up with what's already on Patreon. Once we get through these 6 videos, business will resume as usual. All future videos will get posted exactly like they always have been. I'm not getting greedy, I'm not locking anything down, I'm not changing anything. I'm just giving you more options. More options to either support me here, where it's probably more easier for some of you, and then options for you to support me over on Patreon for those of you who still want to go over there. That's all. It's so simple, it's so easy, it's so nice. I still want to keep making videos. I have so many ideas for different things. Like, I mentioned the Google Doc earlier, and I have so many series ideas, so many concepts for videos, so many, like, everything. And that's just what's written down. Like I said, there are video ideas that just pop in your head all of a sudden. And just that list is always growing, the ideas are always growing. I always have like drafts in that I'm writing, and like, for example, like total sidebar, one of the videos I wanted to do was because LGR recently did a video about the history of his channel. He realized he had been doing the YouTube gig for 15 years, and he wanted to run through, what it was like making early videos, the gear he used back then, things like that. And I took a step back and I looked at my own YouTube channel, and I realized that if you started counting from the Sonic Unleashed video, which was the very first edited, narrated video review I ever did, then it's been about 15 years for me, too. I could have done a whole history video just like he did. And truth be told, I spent like a weekend writing out a series of notes of the history of my YouTube channel, why I started creating YouTube videos. And it made me realize that I've been doing this for my entire life. Like I've been live streaming games since before there was a Twitch. I was live streaming games on Ustream.com. Does anybody remember Ustream? And then before Ustream, I was live streaming games on a service called Mogulus.com. Who remembers Mogulus? I'm probably the only person. I just like saying Mogulus. Mogulus eventually became Livestream.com, and then Livestream.com got bought by someone. I don't know who. But I was streaming Sonic Unleashed DLC all the way back in 2008. That's how long I've been in that live streaming game. And before live streaming, I was doing shoutcast radio stations. The concept of a Sage cast, because I'm the founder of Sage, the Sonic Amateur Games Expo. I created that. I also created the concept of a Sage cast, which is basically a live audio stream done through Shoutcast. And I did that on the very first Sage I ever hosted. I was putting on a show, playing music, talking to people in chat, and then even before that, I was putting on shows for friends over our walkie-talkies, right? Kids would live across the street and we would talk back and forth on a walkie-talkie, and I would play music for them. I was hosting a radio show for them, and that was amazing. I would put on shows for family. I've been drawing comic books when I was in school. I've always been so creative, and I would never give up YouTube, no matter how old I am, no matter what else gets in the way. I have this desire, this thirst in my brain to be creative. The only way I'm gonna stop doing YouTube is if some other creative pursuit replaces it in my life. And at this stage in the game, I don't think that's gonna be happening anytime soon. So you're not gonna get rid of me. I'm here to stay. But I will say this, the last time I moved from Colorado to Nevada, my computer broke. And, you know, that's kind of to be expected. You know, it's in a moving truck, it's shaking along. You know, we have to go over the Rocky Mountains. It's a natural course. Things get broken when you move. So it wouldn't surprise me if I roll back into Colorado, get everything set back up, and find out something doesn't work. So it might be a little bit before I get back on my feet, get the money to fix this thing. Like I said, last time I had funds from the Sonic Adventure video to cover that, now I don't. So, you know, that might put a delay on things, but you're not getting rid of me. I'm gonna keep making videos. I'm gonna keep doing this. I have too many good ideas to just bury them and ignore it. But yeah, that's where I'm at, that's where I'm going, and hopefully it all works out, right? Things have been pretty rough for me for a while now, and I'm very thankful to have people who love me, people who care for me, people who have been uplifting me on my worst days. I'll see you guys when I see ya. Thanks for sticking around.